Every house holds stories. Some are whispered, some are buried, and some refuse to stay hidden. Welcome to the Plot House, where every story finds its voice. Tonight's story is called Through Her Lens, A Fighter's Return. It follows a boxer reclaiming his career and the filmmaker who changes both of their lives. Are you ready? Turn the page. The lighting in Julian's world was always perfect. Soft gold against marble floors, crystal glasses refracting city lights through 28 floors of glass, the kind of height that made people feel important. Maya Fontaine stood beside him in a black silk dress that skimmed her body like it had been tailored by intention. She was beautiful, effortlessly so. Not loud about it, not begging for it, just present. Julian's hand rested lightly at the base of her back. "And this," he said smoothly to the group of partners in pressed navy suits, "is Maya. She just wrapped a major brand campaign. Brilliant eye, completely transformed their visual identity." He smiled at her the way men smile when they are proud of something they helped acquire. Maya returned the smile, polished, controlled. "How exciting," one woman said. "Do you travel often for work?" "Enough," Maya replied. Julian answered for her anyway. "She thrives in it." Thrives. Maya's eyes drifted from the floor to the ceiling windows. The city glittered, like it had been staged. She had just finished her biggest project yet. Months of shooting, editing until sunrise, fighting creative battles in boardrooms where no one looked like her. She should have felt full. Instead, she felt framed, like one of her own photographs. Beautiful composition, no oxygen. Julian leaned close to her ear. "You're quiet tonight." She looked at Julian. He was handsome in a way that felt finished, fixed in place. There was no room for growth in Julian Vance's life, only maintenance. "I'm tired," she said. "You need a break. We can go to Mykonos next month. Reset." A reset. Inside another curated environment. She smiled again, smaller this time. Across the room, she caught her reflection in a mirrored column. Perfect hair, sharp collarbones, diamond studs, the artsy but elevated girlfriend of a rising attorney whose name was beginning to echo in the right rooms. Maya Fontaine. But not the girl who grew up in the gym that smelled like leather, sweat, and ambition. Not the girl who learned discipline before she learned out. Not the girl who could throw a left hook hard enough to rattle ribs. Julian squeezed her waist. "You know you're the best thing in the room, right?" There it was. She inhaled slowly. "I'm going home," she said. Julian blinked. He knew exactly what she meant, but dismissed it as if she wasn't serious. "Now? You can't leave now. They're about to do the toast." Silence settled between them, thin and sharp. "Look, you're overworked," he said calmly. "You don't make decisions like this when you're exhausted." "I am exhausted," she replied. He stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "You're building something stable here." "I know," she replied. "And you'd rather go back to what, exactly? That gym?" Finally acknowledging the tension between them. She didn't answer, because the answer was yes. By the time the final toast rang out, she looked around. The applause, the perfectly orchestrated smiles. It was beautiful, sterile, suffocating. Somewhere between the clink of glasses and the hollow laughter, she realized she didn't want this life anymore. She knew she couldn't wait any longer. She excused herself quietly, leaving the applause, the selfies, and the handshakes behind. She walked straight past the ice sculptures, through the gilded foyer, and out into the cool night air. Back at the condo, she stared at the masterpiece of minimalism. White marble, glass walls, and a view of the city that made everything look like a toy. It was a trophy case. It gleamed with sterile perfection, and every polished surface reminded her of what she was leaving behind. A woman trapped in a role she didn't want to play. As she looked at her camera equipment sitting in its protective hard shell cases by the door, she realized she was the only thing in the room that wasn't for sale. She packed her essentials, camera, lenses, notebooks, and a few personal keepsakes. She felt the weight of the choice settle like a steady heartbeat. She didn't leave a long note. Julian wouldn't understand a long note. He just tried to contest the reason why she was wrong. She changed into leggings, a vintage sweatshirt, and her worn-in sneakers. She grabbed her gear, her keys, and click. The streets beneath her feet carried a different rhythm. Glass and chrome gave way to worn bricks, uneven sidewalks, and the hum of a city that felt alive, real. She arrived at her mother's home city, letting the familiar streets guide her until she reached the raw, grounded corner of the city where her uncle's gym waited. St. James Boxing and Fitness. The gym door, still stuck on humid days, opened. The smell hit her instantly. Leather, iron, sweat, disinfectant, and old wood. Familiar and honest. History. A scent that immediately rooted her. The rhythmic thud of gloves on bags, the shuffle of feet across the worn floor, the clang of the bell, it all welcomed her back, alive and unapologetic. Her uncle's voice echoed from the back. "Close the door before you let all the cold air out." Maya smiled without meaning to. She stepped inside wearing loose black training pants and cropped sweatshirt, and her camera slung over her shoulder like an extension of her spine. Conversations dipped when people noticed her. St. James. Her mother's maiden name. That name carried weight here. Not because she demanded it, because she earned it. "Back for good?" one of the older trainers asked. "For now," she said. For now felt better than forever. She lifted her camera before anyone could ask another question. Click, a fighter rap in his hands. Click, sweat dripping from a heavy bag. Click, footwork drills on scuffed canvas. The rhythm of the place settled into her bones like it had never left. This was discipline without performance. No champagne, no curated skyline, just work. She lowered the camera briefly and stepped toward an open bag. Through a jab, then across, clean, sharp, not for show. Her uncle watched, but didn't comment. She was always the artsy one. But to him and others, she was still a St. James. 3 days later, Maya walks in. Maya. Her Uncle Silas stood by the ring, a stopwatch around his neck. He looked older, his hair a bit whiter, but his eyes were the same warm brown that could spot a drop guard from 50 yards away. "Yes, Unc," she said. The weight in her chest finally started to loosen, slightly mentioning the other day. "You look like you've been living in a museum," Silas grunted, though his smile was wide. "Grab your camera or grab some gloves. Either way, get to work. We got a new one coming in today. They're calling him a quiet storm." Maya smiled, setting her bag down on a wooden bench that had been there since she was 6. She didn't know then that her life was about to collide with a man who had more to lose than she did. She pulled her camera from the bag, checked the lens, and looked through the viewfinder. Then the door opened. He walked in like a ghost, shoulders back, hood up, eyes scanning the room with a defensive, surgical intensity. It wasn't dramatic, no slam, no announcement, but the energy shifted. Conversations thinned. A few heads turned. One trainer paused mid-sentence. Julian Cruz stepped inside. He carried no entourage, no apology, just a duffel bag and the kind of presence that quieted rooms without trying. Maya didn't look up immediately. She was adjusting shutter speed, focusing on a young welterweight working combinations on the mitts. When she finally noticed, she didn't swing her camera towards him right away. She let the moment breathe, let the whispers pass through the space like a small gust of wind. Then, click. Maya didn't lower the camera. She adjusted the focus. Through the lens, she saw him stop. He caught the slight reflection of her glass. His jaw tightened, a flash of pure, unadulterated distrust crossing his face as he locked eyes with the one thing he hated most in the world, a camera. Click. The first frame of her new life. That subtle pull when attention changes direction. She lifted her head. He stood just inside the doorway, duffel bag in one hand, hood pulled back. Jalen Cruz. Even if she hadn't known the name, she would have known and recognized the posture. Stillness that wasn't passive, the kind that measured rooms. His face was leaner than it had been on television, sharper, less polished. He scanned the room once. Then his eyes landed on her. He's back. Didn't think he would, somebody said. She adjusted her lens. Then she looked up. He was already watching her. Not smiling, not impressed, just measuring. Who is she? Why is she filming? Why does she move like she belongs here? Their eyes held for a fraction too long. Maya didn't smile. She didn't look away at first. He didn't either. She adjusted her lens instead. Then she went back to work, detached, professional. Click. He noticed the sound. His jaw shifted slightly. Her uncle approached him with a firm handshake. No theatrics, no pity. You ready to work? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. His voice was low, even controlled. He moved towards the lockers, began wrapping his hands with slow precision. No wasted motion, no nerves, just ritual. But he was aware of her, aware of the lens, aware of what lenses had done to him before. While framing the shots of her uncle's fighters, he stepped into the ring alone, began to move. Footwork first, light, surgical, direct. She noticed him, a man who moved with quiet intensity, every motion managed, every breath measured. Then she felt it. Her camera lifted, fingers finding the shutter. Click. Maya's camera followed, not chasing him, studying him. He pivoted. She tracked the flow. He slipped an invisible punch. She zoomed in on the breath leaving his body. He was rebuilding a rhythm. He stopped mid-combination, looked straight at her. You getting what you need? He asked evenly. The gym quieted again. Maya lowered the camera slightly, enough to meet his eyes without shrinking. I'm documenting the gym. I'm not the gym. No, she said calmly. You're a fighter in it. He climbed through the ropes, closing the distance between them without raising his voice. You know what cameras do? Yes, she replied. They twist things. They can. Silence stretched between them, tight, charged. He searched her face for something. Ambition, optimism, hunger. She gave him none of it. I don't film pain, she said quietly. I filmed the process. The words didn't challenge him. They settled. He looked at her differently then. Not as a threat, not as a vulture, as someone observing craft. No pity in her eyes, no headline, no sympathy, just focus. He exhaled once. "Do what you're gonna do," he said. It wasn't permission, but it wasn't a refusal. He went back to the ring. This time, when he moved, something sharpened. His combinations tightened. His pivots were cleaner. The power landed heavier against the bag. He wasn't performing, but he was aware of being seen, not as a scandal, not as a comeback story, but as a craftsman rebuilding himself. Maya stayed quiet, filming the tempo, the breath, the discipline. No commentary, no direction, just presence. The dance began there. He trained harder. She filmed closer. He hated the camera. But something about her steadiness unsettled him in a way that didn't feel dangerous. It felt grounding. And when he caught her watching between takes, not impressed, not intimidated, just focused, he realized something he hadn't expected. He didn't want her to leave. Later that evening, most of the gym had cleared out. The lights buzzed softly overhead. Jalen sat on the edge of the ring, unwrapping his hands in silence. Maya was by the far wall, reviewing footage. The screen illuminated her face in soft blue light. She expected tension. He wasn't trying to look, but he did. She didn't turn. "If you're here to tell me to delete it, I'm not," she said calmly. Silence. Then his voice. "I've seen what cameras do. They distort. They sell." She studied him for a moment. "You think I'm here to sell you?" "I think everybody is." Maya stood, walked past him, stopped close enough to feel the heat from his training session still clinging to his skin. "Like I said before, I don't film pain," she said quietly. He held her eyes. "I filmed the process." Something flickered behind his eyes. Curiosity. He glanced at the monitor. "What do you see?" She turned the screen toward him. On her screen, he saw himself. He watched himself move. The precision, the control, the discipline, not the headline, not the old clips that replayed his worst night over and over. His jaw shifted. "That's not what they showed," he said. "I'm not them." A long silence settled between them. He continued to watch. This was different. Slow motion footwork, the accuracy in his shoulders turning, the discipline in his breath, the restraint in his eyes. He didn't look broken. He looked deliberate. She felt him step closer but didn't flinch. "You edit fast," he said. "I don't edit. I pay attention." She tilted the screen slightly so he could see better. There was no dramatic music, no exaggerated cuts, just process. He watched himself throw a combination, sharp, clean, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel anger watching it. He felt possibility. "You didn't use the scar angle?" he noticed. "No," she said. "It's not the story." Silence again, this time softer. He looked at her differently, not guarded, not defensive, just curious. "Why here?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Because this is real." He didn't thank her, but he gave her a small nod. He stood, grabbing his bag. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. It wasn't about filming. She gave him a small nod. Same time. And for the first time, he almost smiled. That was the first moment it stopped being about a camera. Something shifted. The beginning of something neither of them had planned. The gym becomes routine, but the space between them changes. He starts pushing harder when she's there, to live up to how she sees him. She starts noticing the small things, the way he helps a younger fighter fix his stance, the way he stays late to clean up, the quiet discipline when no one's watching. One afternoon, Uncle Silas leans against the ropes watching Jalen work the heavy bag. Again, Silas says calmly. Jalen throws the combination. Sloppy. Again. This time sharper. Silas steps inside the ring, pads on, old school. Legacy ain't what they call you, Silas mutters. It's what you repeat. Jalen's jaw tightens. He fires back, disciplined and controlled. Outside the ropes, Maya films the exchange, the teaching, the rebuilding. Later, when the gym empties, Silas finds Maya sitting on the ring apron reviewing footage. You see him? Silas says. She doesn't look up. Yes. He don't like cameras. I know. Silas studies her. He's known her since she was small enough to run between heavy bags. You running from something, he says evenly. She exhales. I left something. Silas nods once. Same difference. You here to make him a project? He asks. No, she says quietly. I'm here because this is honest. Silas watches her for a moment longer, then don't flinch when it gets complicated. A few days later, Silas is running Jalen through mitt work. Again, Silas says. Jalen fires a clean 3-piece, sharp. Again. This time he rushes the hook. Silas taps his glove. You're loading up. From outside the ropes, Maya calls out without hesitation. He's setting it up with his eyes first, telegraphing. The gym goes quiet. Jalen turns his head slowly. Silas doesn't even look surprised. He just smirks slightly and slowly turns his head toward her. You gonna finish coaching him or what? Maya steps closer, resting her camera on the apron. Jalen studies her. You see it? Silas asks her. She nods. His right shoulder dips before he commits. It's subtle, but it's there. It's predictable. Silas tosses the mitts back up. Show me. Jalen throws again. There it is, the slight dip. Silas tosses Jalen the look and grunts. Fix it. Jalen resets. Throws again. Cleaner. Silas grunts and nods once in approval. Jalen looks at Maya differently now. After training, Jalen sits on the bench unwrapping his hands, watching Maya through the mirror as she wipes down her camera lens like she wasn't just dissecting his footwork an hour ago. You box? He asks casually. She doesn't answer right away. A little. A little. His tone says he doesn't believe that. Uncle Silas walks by and tosses a towel over Jalen's shoulder. She's being polite, he mutters. Jalen looks between them. You trained her? Since she could reach the rope, Silas replies evenly. I don't teach soft. Jalen studies her again, recalibrating. You get in the ring? When I need to. Later that night, outside the gym under the flickering street light, in the air cooler and quieter, he asks again, this time without an audience. You ever fight? A few smokers, she answers before she can filter it. His eyebrow lifts. Smokers? She shrugs. 3 rounds, no audience, no press. Now he really looks at her. Which stance? Orthodox. Show me. Right there on the sidewalk, she sets her feet. Guard up, balance, clean lines, trained. He circles once, testing distance without touching her, reading her base the way he reads opponents. She doesn't flinch, just tracks him. You're not soft, he says quietly. No. And that's when it shifts. It's recognition. Jalen is in the ring, working control combinations under Silas's watchful eye. Again, Silas says. Jalen pivots, jab, cross, slip, reset. The smell of leather and sweat fills the air. The gym door opens mid-round. Then a different scent cuts through. Expensive cologne. Maya looks up first. He stands near the entrance. Clean slacks tailored perfectly. Dark fitted polo that stretches clean across his chest and arms. Low crisp haircut. Expensive watch catching the fluorescent light. 2 bracelets, one beaded, one leather with metal detail. A signet ring, a championship ring. It's Julian. Perfectly composed, like the room should adjust to him. For a split second, something flickers across her face. Recognition. Silas sees it too. Finish the round. Silas mutters quietly. Jalen keeps moving. He glances around the gym, assessing the layout, Silas's authority, Jalen's footwork, Maya's positioning near the ropes. He walks forward calmly. Maya. Her name is steady in his voice. Familiar. Julian. Silas clocks him immediately. Doesn't stop the round. Jalen keeps moving, but his eyes flicks once towards him. Julian offers Silas a respectful nod. Coach. Silas gives him one back. Julian turns to Maya. You look good. I am good, she replies. A slight smile touches his mouth. I was in the area, he says, obviously a lie. He misses her. It's visible in the restraint. What are you doing here, she says. I was hoping we could get dinner, he says smoothly. No pressure, just talk. She looks at him. And there's a gala next month. The foundation expansion. I'd like you to be there with me. Your work deserves rooms that can fund it properly. There it is, the presentation. Pitching her. Even now, she exhales softly. You're doing it again. Doing what? Framing me. His jaw tightens just slightly. I'm advocating for you. I didn't ask you to. Silas watches from the corner of the ring now. Jalen throws a combination harder than necessary. Julian notices without looking directly. He glances towards the ring casually, just enough to see Jalen watching between rounds. He recognizes it immediately. Protection, interest, chemistry. 2 men clocking each other without a word. Julian's expression doesn't change, but something sharpens behind his eyes. He steps a little closer to Maya, lowering his voice. I miss you. It's simple, honest. For a second, she sees the version of him she used to wait for, unguarded, but it's attached to the same pattern. Come home, he says quietly. Let me support you the right way. The right way? She shakes her head gently. I'm not something to position, Julian. His eyes snap to the ring again. Jalen meets it this time. No hostility. Julian gives the slightest nod. Respectful. Alpha to alpha. Then he steps back. Dinner still stands, he says calmly. Call me. He turns toward the exit. On his way out, he pauses at the wall near the exit. Frame photos, champions, amateurs, community events. But one photo catches his attention. Julian Cruz, younger, belt raised. Julian's eyes hold onto the name. He files it away and then leaves. Days pass. Julian does what he does best. Research. He understands risk. He returns. This time, he's carrying a thin folder. Same casual polish, same calm. The gym is quieter today. Jalen is wrapping his hands in the corner. Silas adjusting tape. Maya is reviewing footage. Julian approaches her first. I need 5 minutes. She sees the folder. What did you do? My job, he says evenly. He hands it to her. I'm not here to embarrass anyone. Jalen keeps rapping. Silas' eyes move between all 3 of them. Maya opens the folder. The headlines. Suspension. Her jaw tightens. You investigated him? I informed myself. Julian replies calmly. Because I care about you. Every punch Jalen throws into the bag now lands harder. You came here to warn me? I came here because you're not reckless, Julian replies. And this is reckless. A heavy bag swings slowly in the background. This gym? She asks. This proximity, he clarifies. His tone is controlled, but underneath it is something sharper. I know how these stories end, Maya. I've cleaned them up before. Jalen folds the towel carefully, places it down, still silent. You don't get to reduce him to a file, Maya says quietly. Julian's eyes narrow slightly. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From attaching yourself to someone who could drag your name into something ugly. There it is. Your name. The Fontaine and the St. James weight. Jalen finally steps forward, not aggressive. Sir, he says respectfully, meeting Julian's eyes. You don't know me. Julian holds the look. I know enough. Silas shifts his stance subtly, ready if needed, but Jalen doesn't escalate. He turns back towards the ring instead. That restraint says more than any defense could. Julian notices it. So does Maya. Julian softens his tone. There's a gala next month. Foundation expansion. Your work could be featured. She hears it again. He steps closer to her, lowering his voice. Again, Maya. You belong in rooms where decisions are made, not rooms where damage control starts. This gym feels smaller, quieter. Jalen climbs back into the ring. He recognizes the machine in Julian. The systems, leverage, optics. Julian continues. Voice clinical, but not cruel. This isn't about class. It's about exposure. If his situation resurfaces, your name gets pulled into it. That affects your work, your future. My future isn't fragile, she says quietly. It doesn't have to be fragile to be damaged. To stay steady, Maya looks at Julian for a long moment. I don't want to be presented, she said finally. I want to build. Julian's composure cracks just slightly. You think this is building? He gestures slightly towards the ring. This is volatility. And your world, she asks. That's safety. It's structure, he snaps, then catches himself. The passion she once wanted from him. The fight. Silas steps forward slightly. That's enough, he says. Julian meets his eyes respectfully. I'm not attacking your fighter. You're circling him, Silas replies. Julian doesn't deny it. He looks back at Maya. I'm asking you to think long term. From the ring, Julian finally speaks. You done? It's not loud. Doesn't need to be. Julian turns to him fully now. Measured eye contact. I don't blame you, Julian says calmly, for rebuilding. Jalen nods once, then don't reduce me to paperwork. Silence. Maya closes the folder. I appreciate that you think you're protecting me, she says to Julian, but I'm not a case to manage. He looks at her for a long moment. He does love her, in his way, but he doesn't understand this version of her, not fully. I won't apologize for caring, he says. I'm not asking you to, she replies. I'm asking you to trust me. That's the one thing he struggles with. Control versus trust. Julian straightens slightly. If this escalates, he says calmly, I'll handle it. Jalen's fists tighten. I don't need handling, he says evenly. Silas steps between the energies without stepping between the men. That's enough, he says. Julian gives one final look to Maya. I miss you, and I'm still here, he says quietly. The words hang heavier than the accusations. She sees it now. The man underneath the polish, the one who never let himself be raw with her until he was losing her. He leaves. Silence fills the gym. Jalen stops moving. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Silas exhales. "You good?" he asks Maya. She nods. Jalen steps out of the ring slowly. "You didn't have to do that," he says. "I didn't," she replies. "I did it for me." Their eyes lock. And when it comes to Julian, for the first time, he understands he's no longer the future she's walking toward. The fight announcement changes everything. A title eliminator, televised, high stakes, real money, real ranking. At first, the footage is respectful. Then the machine wakes up. Jalen Cruz returns. Redemption arc. Then the clip resurfaces. Another account posts his brother's name. Then the night resurfaces. Grainy footage outside a nightclub. Sirens, chaos. The headlines come back uglier this time. Boxer linked to street shooting. They never said he pulled the trigger. They never said he didn't. They just let the implication breathe. A news van idles 2 blocks down from the gym. Silas sees it. Maya sees it. Jalen pretends he doesn't. He says nothing. He stays late that night, sitting on the ring apron, elbows on knees. Maya sits beside him. He doesn't look at her when he starts talking. "My brother was louder than me," he says quietly, charismatic. Thought he could talk his way into any room. A faint ghost of a smile. He wasn't reckless, just open. She listens. "When my career started climbing, I told him I'd get us out. New house, security, something solid. One night, he's outside a club. Wrong place, wrong timing, shooting breaks out. It's gang related, but not him. Just chaos." He swallows. "He didn't make it." The gym feels smaller. "They ran my face next to crime footage for a week," he continues. "Panel debates, speculation, comment sections deciding who I must really be." He finally looks at her. "I didn't pull out of the eliminator because I was scared. I pulled out because I couldn't breathe without wanting to break something to the point I would really hurt my opponent. Then they would have a real reason." Silence. My promoter dropped me. Sponsors faded. That he fell off narrative. I just stopped caring about being seen. I felt like being seen is what got him killed. That's the truth. Not scandal, just grief, rage. She reaches for his hand. He lets her. "I don't hate media," he says. "I hate what it does." He stands. "I won't drag your name into that." The cameras outside multiply as the week approaches. Blogs speculate again. The family name starts appearing in comments. St. James back in controversy? It begins, and so does the pullback. He starts arriving earlier, leaving sooner, speaking less, respectfully distant. Silas watches it unfold. "You pushing her away?" Silas asks him one morning. "I'm not dragging her into this. I'm protecting her." Silas snorts as he folds his arms. "From what? Work?" Jalen doesn't answer. Silas steps closer. "You think this gym doesn't know about past? I built this place on second chances." "She's my blood," Silas continues. "And she chooses her ground." Jalen still pulls back. It's protection, but especially for her. Until one day, Maya stops letting him. That evening, when the gym is nearly empty, she walks in without her camera bag. Silas notices immediately. "Good," he mutters. Jalen is hitting the bag hard. She steps closer. "Get in the ring," Silas says. Jalen looks confused. "Both of you." Maya is already wrapping her hands. Jalen freezes and stares. Maya doesn't hesitate. She steps through the ropes. Jalen watches the way she tapes her wrist, efficient, familiar. You sure? He asks quietly. Silas answers for her. She's not weak. They touch gloves. They circle slowly. He throws light, testing. She slips clean. His eyes sharpen. She counters to the body, controlled, precise. He exhales a short laugh despite himself. Okay, he mutters. Focus now. It becomes a rhythm. Footwork, distance, adjustment. She reads him. He recalibrates. When he rushes, she angles out. He corners her lightly. She pivots out, brushes his shoulder as she passes. You can't outrun grief, she says softly. He freezes half a beat. She taps his guard. Face it. He throws a sharper combination. She absorbs it, steps in close. They clinch, just close enough to feel a heartbeat. He pulls back, searching her face. You don't understand what this could cost you, he says. I do, she says. And I'm still here. He shakes his head slightly. You don't owe me that. I'm not paying a debt. Silas watches quietly below. Then what are you doing? Jalen asks. She steps into his space again, choosing. The air between them is different now. He pulls her headgear off gently. You didn't flinch, he says. I told you, she says softly. I'm not leaving. That's the moment it skyrockets. Connection forged in contact. He reaches for her instinctively, stops himself, then doesn't. His hand brushes her jaw, checking for damage that isn't there. You're dangerous, he says quietly. So are you. But now it doesn't sound like it's a warning. He pulls her in, not forcefully, just certain. The kiss isn't rushed, it's built. Weeks of tension collapsing into contact. Sweat, breath, restraint finally gone. Silas clears his throat from below. They break apart, half laughing, half breathless. Good, Silas says. Now fight like that on the big night. The media noise is still outside. Julian is still calculating somewhere. The past still exists, but inside the ring, something locked into place. She isn't documenting him. She's in it with him. And he isn't protecting her by pushing her away anymore. He's trusting her to stand beside him. He isn't alone. And for the first time since his brother died, Jalen feels like he's fighting for something that isn't revenge or redemption. It's the future. Finally, the big night. The locker room carries the particular quiet that only exists before a fight. Tape ripping, gloves creaking, the distant rumble of a crowd pressing against the walls of the arena like weather waiting to break. But inside the room itself, everything moves slower, intentional. Jalen Cruz sits on the wooden bench, elbows on his knees, hands extended, while his trainer finishes wrapping the final layer of tape around his knuckles. The white cloth pulls tight, smooth and practiced, crossing over scars earned years before tonight ever existed. Maya stands across the room with her camera raised. She's been filming for 20 minutes already. The preparation, the ritual, the way Jalen moves without wasting a single motion. She captures his gloves resting on the bench beside him, the gold stitching in his robe, the quiet focus in his face. Look up, she says quietly, from behind the camera. He lifts his eyes. You ready? She says. A nod. Silas stands nearby, leaning against the locker with his arms crossed, studying the two of them the way a man studies something he already understands, but still finds interesting. Tonight isn't about proving anything, Silas says calmly. That part's done. Jalen flexes his wrapped hands once. It's about showing them who you are now. 5 years ago, Jalen Cruz was one of the fastest rising fighters in the division, a knockout artist with dangerous composure. Broadcasters called him the future of the sport. Then everything stopped. because of a headline. His younger brother had been caught in a shooting outside a nightclub. Wrong place, wrong second. Chaos spilled into the street that had nothing to do with him. But that nuance never mattered once Jalen's name got attached to the story. Sports shows ran the footage beside photos of him. Comment sections filled with speculation. People who had never met his brother turned a tragedy into a narrative. Within weeks, the world decided they understood his life. He withdrew from a major fight that year. Promoters moved on, sponsors faded, people said he fell off. They never understood that he didn't disappear because he couldn't fight. He disappeared because grief made the noise of the world unbearable. Until St. James Gym found him again. Or maybe he found it. Silas pushes himself off the locker and picks up the robe, setting it over Jalen's shoulders. It's time. The roar of the arena grows louder as they move down the hallway. Maya moves backward in front of them, camera raised, filming the walkout. The overhead lights stretch long shadows across the concrete floor. Jalen's footsteps echoed, steady and measured. She zooms in briefly on his face. "You've got this," she says softly. Jalen keeps walking, shoulders loose beneath the robe, breath controlled. She lowers the camera just enough to look directly at him. "Are you ready?" His eyes meet hers for a split second, a quiet nod. She lifts the lens again, walking backward as the noise from the crowd swells like thunder at the end of the tunnel. Then, softer this time, "You've got this." The curtain parts. And the arena explodes. The noise hits like a wall. Thousands of voices crashes together under bright lights. Camera flashes shudder across the crowd. The commenters lean forward immediately. "And here he comes," one of them says. Jalen Cruz, a fighter many believed we'd never see at this level again after stepping away from the sport nearly 5 years ago following the tragic shooting that took his younger brother. Maya films the entire walk to the ring. Jalen doesn't look at her. He doesn't look at the cameras. He looks at the ring. The bell rings. From the first exchange, it's clear something is different. Jalen isn't hunting the knockout the way he did earlier in his career. His movements are tighter now, quieter, each step placed with purpose. His jab snaps out like a ruler measuring distance. Slip, counter, pivot. Silas nods once in the corner. "That's it," he mutters. The opponent presses forward aggressively in round 3, trying to turn the fight into a brawl. Jalen refuses. He controls the pace like a man who understands time. By round 4, the commenters start noticing. "This version of Cruz is different," one of them says. "Less explosive, but much more precise." Then midway through the round, it happens. A sharp right hand catches Jalen clean. His head snaps back. The arena erupts instantly. For a split second, the world fractures. Sound drops away. He isn't in the ring anymore. He's standing in a hospital hallway from 5 years ago. Phones ringing, police lights through glass, someone telling him his brother didn't make it. The commenter voice cuts through for the moment. You have to wonder if moments like this bring back those memories, that tragedy following Cruz for years. And then, from somewhere in the arena, a voice shouts his name, his brother's name. Another voice joins, then another, until the chant rolls across the arena in waves. The name fills the building. Jalen's chest tightens. Old instinct flickers, the violent one, the part of him that once tried to punch through pain instead of feel it. His opponent rushes forward. Across the ring, Silas steps up on the apron. "Jalen." Maya lowers her camera just enough to look over it. Their eyes meet. She mouths words slowly. "Face it. Don't run. You've got it." Jalen inhales. The chant continues. But something moves in the way he hears it. His brother was always louder than him, always the one who talked big about the future, about houses they buy, cars they drive. He would have loved this moment. Jalen exhales. Then he moves. His opponent swings again. Jalen slips the punch by inches and answers with a crisp counter to the body. The movement is fluid now, calm, controlled. The crowd feels the shift instantly. "Look at that composure," the commenter said. "That's champion pose." At ringside, Maya suddenly lowers the camera completely. She shoves it into one of the hands of the trainers beside her. "Hold this." She's on her feet now. "Move your head, Jalen," she yells instantly. Silas glances sideways at her and laughs under his breath. "I thought you were media tonight," he says. She doesn't answer. Her hands grip the apron as if she's a part of the corner. By round 7, the fight belongs entirely to Jalen. He's not chasing the knockout, he's dismantling a man. Jab, angle, hook to the ribs, step out. Every moment carries the fingerprint of the St. James Gym. Discipline, structure, patience, even Jalen notices. He sits several rows back, perfectly, still among the crowd. When Jalen got rocked earlier, Julian leaned forward the way that an analyst studies an explosive asset, expecting collapse. Instead, he watched something rarer, control under pressure. Now he studies the ring differently. Round 9. Jalen lands a short combination that staggers his opponent badly. The crowd rises. Instead of rushing wildly, Jalen cuts the ring off with calm precision. 2 body shots, one upstairs. The opponent stumbles backward into the ropes. Another clean uppercut splits the guard. The referee steps in, waves it off. The arena detonates. Jalen doesn't scream. He doesn't pound his chest. He simply stands there breathing while the noise crashes around him. Sweat drips from his chin. His eyes move slowly across the crowd, searching until he finds her. Maya stands at ringside, camera forgotten in someone else's hands. Tears streak down her cheeks, but smiling through them, their eyes lock. Across the arena, Julian watches the moment carefully because it explains everything. Inside the ring, the interviewer pushes a microphone towards Jalen. "Jalen Cruz," he says over the roar. 5 years after stepping away from the sport following the loss of your brother, you've just delivered one of the most disciplined performances of your career. What does this moment mean to you?" Jalen breathes slowly. He looks down at the canvas for a second, then back up. "My brother's name was echoing through this place tonight," he says, voice steady but thick with emotion. "For a second, it almost took me somewhere I didn't want to go." The crowd quiets. "But then I realized something." He glances briefly toward his corner, toward Silas, toward Maya. "He's not a weight I carry. He's the reason I stand." Applause ripples through the arena. "I promised him we were going to build something bigger than where we were from." Jalen continues. "Tonight wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about anger. It was about honoring that promise." He lifts the belt slightly. "This right here, this belongs to him too." The arena erupts again. At ringside, Maya wipes her eyes. Silas folds his arms with quiet pride. And somewhere in the crowd, Julian finally understands that the man in the ring isn't defined by tragedy. He's defined by what he did after it. The noise begins again, low at first, then swelling as more voices join in. "Cruz! Cruz! Cruz!" Jalen hears it, his name rolling through the arena. Not whispers with speculation, not attached to headlines. Celebrated. For the first time in years, Jalen Cruz smiles when he hears it. Months later, the gym sounds the same. Leather striking leather, ropes creaking, feet sliding across worn canvas. Nothing about St. James boxing and fitness has changed. Not really. Except the walls. A new frame poster hangs near the entrance now. Black background, white lettering. The Process. A documentary by Maya Fontaine, St. James. Below the title is a still image. Jalen Cruz in the ring. Mid-step, balanced, alive. The premiere had been 3 nights earlier. A packed independent theater downtown, fighters, journalists, old trainers, young amateurs from the gym sitting in the front rows like they were watching something sacred. The film wasn't flashy, no dramatic music, no narration trying to tell people how to feel, just work. Hands rapping, jump ropes hitting concrete, breathing between sounds. Silas correcting footwork, the rhythm of discipline, and Jalen, just a fighter rebuilding himself piece by piece. At the end of the film, the screen faded to black. Then Maya's voice came through softly over the final training footage. Some stories begin with a fight. The best ones begin with the work after. The theater had been quiet for several seconds before the applause started, a standing ovation. By morning, sports outlets were already talking about it. A story about recovery, about legacy, about the gym that built fighters the right way. Silas had watched the entire thing with his arms folded across his chest, pretending he wasn't emotional. He had failed, badly. Now, back in the present, he stands near the ring watching one of the younger fighters struggle through pad work. "Keep your base under you," Silas says calmly. "You leaning too much." Across the ring, Jalen moves through rounds on the heavy bag. 6 months ago, he had been fighting for redemption. Now he's fighting for position, rankings, title conversations, the future he almost lost. But if you didn't know his story, watching him train, you'd never guess any of that. He looks exactly the way Maya first filmed him, focused, quiet, precise. Between rounds, he rests his arms across the top rope, breathing evenly. Across the gym, Maya stands near the far wall, camera in her hand, still filming. Some habits never leave. She adjusts her lens slightly, capturing the way Jalen resets his feet before the next round begins. The way Silas watches everything like a general studying a battlefield. This footage isn't for the documentary. That story is finished. This is something else now. Legacy. Silas glances toward her and shakes his head with a faint smile. "You done yet?" he calls out. Maya lowers the camera just enough. "Never." The bell rings again. Jalen goes back to work. Another round, another rhythm, another step forward. A few minutes later, the bell ends the session. The gym settles into that familiar post-training calm. Fighters wiping sweat from their faces, gloves coming off, conversation starting again. Jalen steps out of the ring and unwraps his hands slowly. He looks up. Maya is still standing there, camera resting against her hip now, watching him. He walks over, sweat still shining across his shoulders. "You working again?" he asks. She tilts the camera slightly. "Always." He studies her for a moment. There's something different now. Before the fight, before the film, before everything shifted, there had always been distance between them, unspoken tension. Questions neither of them were ready to answer yet. Now that distance is gone. Earned. Jalen nods toward the camera. "You gonna keep documenting me forever?" Maya smiles. "Only if you keep doing something worth filming." He laughs under his breath. Silas watches from across the gym, pretending he's focused on taping a fighter's gloves. He's not. Jalen steps a little closer to Maya, just close enough that the space between them disappears. "You remember what you told me the first day?" he says. Her eyebrows lift. "I said a lot that day." He shakes his head. "No." He looks directly at her. "You said you don't film pain." She nods slowly. "I film process." For a second, neither of them says anything. The gym hums quietly around them. Then Jalen reaches over and gently lowers the camera from her hands, sets it on the nearby bench. For the first time since this whole story began, there's no lens between them. Maya looks at him. "You just interrupted my work," she says softly. Jalen shrugs. "Thought the story might deserve a moment off camera." She pretends to consider that. Then she steps a little closer. "Maybe." Across the gym, Silas finally chuckles under his breath and turns away, giving them privacy, the only way an older trainer knows how, by minding his own business. Jalen glances once across the gym, the ring, the bags, the fighters going and coming, the place that rebuilt him. Then he looks at Maya. "You know something?" he says. "What?" He nods toward the ring behind them. "I thought winning that fight was gonna be the big moment." She tilts her head, and he smiles slightly. Turns out it was just the beginning. Maya looks around the gym too, at the fighters training, at Silas moving through the room like the place is an extension of him, at the life inside these walls. Then she looks back at Jalen. "That's usually how the good stories work," she says. Jalen studies her for a second longer. Then he nods towards the bench where her camera rests. "You gonna pick that up?" She shakes her head. "Not right now." For the first time since she had walked into the gym months ago, Maya Fontaine, with the St. James bloodline and legacy, chooses the moment instead of the footage. And somewhere behind them, the heavy bag starts moving again. Another fighter starts another round, because inside Silas St. James' gym, the work never stops, and neither do the stories that grow from it. Some stories begin with a fight. The best ones begin with the work after. Thank you for joining me in the Plot House. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what's next. Let me know in the comments which part of this story moved you the most, and I'll see you in the next one.